Just to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. This is the post-Super Bowl edition. We had a good time at the festivities all weekend. We all kind of went to a few of the different events.
Yeah, I think we tried to make the most of it as much as, a couple of guys who were, one who's almost 40, one who's in their couples in their mid-40s could do, right?
Yeah.
I know the Gen Zers were out and about. All the influencers didn't skip a beat. Some we know, guys like Jono was out at all the events.
He went to every
living vicariously through him.
event.
So good job there, Jono. I mean, there was a Shaq party. I didn't even know Shaq was throwing a party. I think I was actually on the way to get the Twins some stuff at Walmart, and I saw the signs on Chapatoulas saying Shaq parking, and I'm like, should I go to the Shaq party instead? No, but they had that. The Super Bowl experience was awesome. Did that on Saturday. I say awesome. It was a really cool event.
Well, hold on. Before we go into that
were
part,
insane. Yeah, we could back up in terms of the timeline.
let's talk about go ahead and introduce this shiny new addition to the set.
So I'll set. I think we. To your first question, though, I think like the city was awesome. I don't want to say surprisingly because I remember the last time we did the Super Bowl, the city was pretty much like in its best shape from recent memory. When the Super Bowl was here in the year was 2002. It was kind of like the best the city had looked before Katrina, in my opinion. And then when it was your Ravens 49ers, except for the power going out, everything was awesome. And so the same thing kind of presented itself, I thought, this week. Like the city there was this gradual buzz that built, and you saw more and more people come in. And yeah, the traffic was bad, but as a football fan, as a diehard Saints fan, the reason there's traffic is because the entire world of what you follow, every player every media personality every network is descending upon our hometown, and everything you want to do is maybe a 10-minute drive for me, a 20-minute drive for you just to go check it out. And so then I get a text from Nick about a dinner that was happening at Compare Le Pen on Thursday. And Nick, maybe you can explain what the dinner itself was.
It was just a collaboration. I guess it was Open Table with Visa.
Yeah.
Working together, doing a Nina Compton, who we all love, obviously, and Drew Brees, since they were friends when, Drew was living here full-time, doing some sort of collaborative dinner for the Super Bowl, and they were doing a Q&A, and it was a tasting menu mostly put together by Nina with a little bit of Drew's input, apparently, as he said while he was there. So we all got to go meet and take a picture with Drew Brees.
You had the opportunity to to book a reservation for it.
Yep. So luckily through some credit card Jesus, I got a text saying Drew Brees dinner, and I booked it immediately, and we all went, and it was awesome. We probably stayed out, 4 hours too late as usual.
Did we? I don't remember.
About 4 hours too late, but yeah, right. It was.
I just know my wife told me that I was in the best condition of the three of us.
That's impressive. That
wasn't a compliment, though. I promise you.
No, but it was impressive to Corey's point.
Yeah,
you were talking monkey by about.
Oh man, I was meeting everybody I could out there. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think so that dinner kind of kicked things off for the Super Bowl weekend, which was like the best way possible. Because I had said before, even a year out when the Super Bowl was here, I'm like, I just remember how much was going on in town last time around, and I'm like, I really want to get in on some event, and this was kind of like the perfect opportunity to do that. The thing was, like, the thing I wasn't expecting, when you told me Nina Compton and Drew Brees are doing a dinner, and I read the description, and it was like, Brees and Nina put together this menu. It's going to be an intimate dinner, opportunities for mixing and mingling. I'm like, oh shit, we're going to actually get to meet them. This isn't going to be, because we've gone to the, not knocking the Saints Touchdown Club, because that's a cool event too, but when you go to a Saints Touchdown Club,
you don't have access.
It's one of these things where it's a bunch of local dudes. I think the the organization was founded maybe in like River Ridge or something, and and there's like it's a banquet at a hotel ballroom, and there's a long table, and all the players are behind the table.
It is a fun
hundreds
time,
of people.
It is a
Yeah,
fun
hundreds of people are on the other side. It's hard to really have any FaceTime with the players you love, and so this was great because I'm like, we're going to be in a pretty compare Lapin's not a large room. And so we're going to get to meet him. And I'm like, hell yeah. But what I wasn't expecting was like the production value of this event. It
was great. It was great. And
he hung out the whole time. So it wasn't like a pop in and bounce out. He was there for 2.5 hours, until dessert was served. And then he went on to the NFL honors to present.
He stuck it out because we knew he had NFL honors. It had come out earlier in the day that Brees and Steve Gleason were going to be presenting the Man of the Year, which should have gone to Cam Jordan.
Oh, man.
But we're like, okay, so he's probably going to like make a quick appearance, and then he's going to get police escorted over to the Sanger for that. But I mean, he stayed in he did his little Q&A that they had queued up, which he had some cool stories in that. That was cool to hear, some inside baseball, so to speak, from Drew about his time here and certain families in his neighborhood cooking and stuff like that. But then he stayed to eat, and saw.
You had never met him, right?
I had never met him before.
I've seen him out, I think, 4 or 5 times, but I never wanted to interrupt him. He was at dinner or had something going on. I know Max has actually had a chance to talk to him a couple times.
He came into Root one time with the offensive linemen when they do their weekly dinners, and then one time at an autograph signing in Mississippi where I got that big picture signed. But no, man, this year's Super Bowl, look, it was awesome. New Orleans always does the best job. He and I went to the Super Bowl in Miami back in 2010, in that whole different environment. We just hung out on South Beach, and
it was like comparatively, it's awful compared to here.
It's awful, and honestly, no city can stack up to what New Orleans can do, just from the ease of
the logistics are so much
there.
easier, right? Everything you're in walking distance to all the major hotels, within a mile and a half or so, 2 miles, even to the other end of the French Quarter if you're staying that far over. All the way to Uptown on St. Charles. All those hotels are less than a 2-mile walk. Everything's easy to get to. Streetcar straight down St. Charles. So, you see a bunch of ex-players and current players just raving about how incredible it was. I know Ocho Cinco was going crazy.
Yeah, he was talking about he wanted to stay here.
Yeah, he tweeted today. Someone's like, "Has Ocho Cinco left yet?" And he's like, "I'll be at Super Sunday next weekend. Don't you worry." It's like he's loving it.
No, I'll say this, man. From last Super Bowl, which was in 2013 here, the Ravens and the 49ers, and the restaurant was open at that point, so I had a whole different experience this time because I was living in a warehouse district last time, didn't have a car because I just walked to work, and we had just crazy business every night of the week. Celebrities, any celebrity you could think of came to the restaurant, whether it was movie star,
Peter King,
sports reporter, players, all of that stuff. So I worked the whole time last time. We got to go to some parties. I know we went to a party at Republic one of the nights, and I remember meeting Adrian Peterson. Jerry Jones was there, like hammered out of his mind. Shocking. But this one was a whole different. It basically flipped the experience on its head for me. I mean, it was awesome to, we had to go through the trouble of driving and looking for parking this time, which did not have to worry about last time. But Saturday night, man, we parked over by Pesh. We walked all the way down to Manolito, hit up Jackson Square, had some drinks in Manolito, just walked around the quarter, and the environment was incredible. The light show at the cathedral, unreal.
I saw it from afar, but back on the city, I was just looking through Twitter. You saw some rave reviews during the week, but I was seeing some of these national guys leaving. It was cool seeing their kind of departure messages. I bookmarked some of them. Albert Breer, I believe from NFL Network, he said, I'm on the tarmac to leave New Orleans, and I'll say it again, no other city comes close as a Super Bowl host. From the walkability to the bars to the restaurants, whoever's second is way behind. Next Super Bowl that's not spoken for is in 2029. Don't mess this up at NFL. Damian Woody, New Orleans can host the Super Bowl every year for my money. The city just does it right. And then you got NFL PR guy, because I thought, maybe the NFL itself is going to play a little close to the vest, but at NFL PR guys, one of the many reasons we keep going back to New Orleans for Super Bowls, can walk everywhere, 16 minutes from my office at our hotel to the spot for my game, including going through security. And then, Ian Rappaport had a similar message when he was leaving. It's just that everybody down the line just, whoever runs Pro Football Talk.
And it's funny though, Florio. It's funny though. All those names you mentioned, they all came in the root for the last Super Bowl.
Nice.
And like I'm just telling you, it was the epicenter for everything that was going on. But no, they're right. Like it is hands down the best place to host a Super Bowl. You remember Miami was like a 45-minute drive.
Yeah,
to get
that's
to the
what
stadium.
that's what I was
It's
alluding to when I said it wasn't the same, because everything was so broken apart.
Yeah.
It's so far to get to the game, and getting out of the game, we couldn't even get out of the game. We had to walk.
Yeah.
Did you walk with us when we had to walk, or did you
Obviously,
take
you
the
got to
car
walk
back?
out of every stadium, but you mean like a significant
No,
distance?
like I mean, just to get a car, we had to walk half a mile up the road because it's so far away. Everyone's in a car. There's no one walking back to the
Can't
hotels.
walk to it, yeah.
It was brutal. as
Although
far as
had it been
getting
in Indianapolis, we might have tried.
we would have.
Yeah. Well, you think about other NFL stadiums, and most of them that I can think of are ones that I've been to. They're stadiums surrounded by parking lots, right? And we have the dome has its garage and whatever.
Not all of them, man. Because in Denver, we had to. That was a hell of a hike to get to.
Yeah, and that's not even one of the bad ones. I mean,
exactly,
the new, not new, but it was new. The Cardinals Arizona Stadium, they built a whole mall around it, but you're still, just to get to the mall area was not easy.
So that's what I'm saying. Like even if you're unless you're a VIP with some kind of like golf cart or car into the bowels of the stadium, as a fan, you're walking out of necessity. Like if you had the same walk, like I remember, Candlestick ain't the animal, but when I went to Candlestick, similar situation as other stadiums like Miami, if the same amount of time it takes you to walk from the gate of the stadium to the end of the parking lot is the same amount of time it take you from like the Superdome
To the quarter.
Right.
And like there's that, I think I heard you saw a lot of Eagles fans, did a couple things just out and about running errands uptown, or went and visited my sister-in-law in Magazine the day of the game. And she sells clear NFL regulation purses, but they're like stylized. I'll give her a plug. It's Go Clear, Geaux, Go Clear. It's a cool company. But she had a little pop-up, saw a bunch of more Eagles fans than Chiefs, but even Magazine Street down uptown was, you could see people on game day just ready to go.
It's a shame the game wasn't any good, huh?
Yeah, the game was awful.
Well, I was going to say, it wasn't a good game, but considering we all saw the memes everywhere about who America was rooting for. Considering the rooting interest of most of the general public, I feel like it was a celebration of someone finally taking down the Chiefs. But no, I think the city did really well, cleaned its act up. Maybe if we could just, whatever the New Orleans Super Bowl host committee did to line up everything for this game, if they could just do the same thing for like daily life, that would be great.
Dude, somebody tweeted today. It was, it's like, all right, some of the streets are still blocked off. They're putting the potholes back.
Saw that. That was perfect. They got to put the potholes back.
Yeah.
There's still going to be some traffic.
No, man, I'll tell you, from walking around in the quarter, and going to see the light show, we put our best foot forward.
Yeah.
There was police presence like you would not believe. Like,
Yep.
At no point did the thought of anything possibly going wrong even pop in my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just felt like you were walking around in freaking Disney World or something.
There was an aerial shot of, from the river, looking from the river into downtown, kind of the quarter on the right. You can see the World Trade Center. And, Poydras and Canal make that V. And because the picture's obviously two-dimensional as a night picture, it almost made it look like there was some kind of light tower structure on the edge of the river. I'm like, that does not exist. What is that? And it's the angle that Canal Street made coming to a point in the perspective. And it was because it was all blue and red lit up from all the law enforcement lights. And someone made a comment, they're like, the blue and the red in the picture shows that, how as many cars and other lights there are, that's how much law enforcement we have interspersed along the route.
I think every cop in the state was in the quarter.
You could get away with some crimes like
Elsewhere,
outside of the city. It seemed. But
well, hold on. Before we go any further, we got to show this guy off.
Yeah, so back to the dinner. The dinner included, which we didn't know until kind of the end of the dinner, they said, yeah, check your menu. If you have a fleur-de-lis stamp on your menu, then you've won a door prize. And there's four of us at our table, and I didn't have it. Max and Nick's like, oh, I got it. It's like, well, that's fitting because you got the dinner. And then they come around, this, one of the Visa employees, she was handing other people footballs. Whatever she had in her bag for us was much larger than what a football was. She pulls out this Drew Brees autographed helmet, and we're like, wait, we get to keep this?
So we all took turns wearing it
all night.
Yeah, I guess we could post that to the Twitters of all of us, each wearing the helmet. It was definitely. I think I probably got the worst helmet pick because it was like kind of dangling off my head.
I don't know.
I have some rough ones.
He's got some rough ones. I was going to say, this was the highlight of the night, but Nick did get to meet Pac-Man Jones and get a picture while wearing this helmet, and the helmet
it was because of the helmet. It was because of the helmet, and that was one of the more fun stories from the night. So we do the dinner, and then we're like, where should we have a couple of little drinks after? And we're all like, look, it's Super Bowl weekend. We want to go somewhere where we can meet some athletes or something. Why the hell not? And so we're close to Harrah's. We're like, well, Harrah's is probably a good
Caesars.
shot. Caesars, right? That's the
rebrand.
Yeah, Caesars. And I don't even know why we were allowed to go in, but they had that high limit area.
I don't know that we were allowed, but I saw Pac-Man and I just beelined it.
They weren't checking anybody at the door, but the first person I noticed was Jalen Rose because he's tall as hell. And Jalen Rose was kind of pissed at me because I said, hey, Nick was wearing the helmet literally into the casino, out of the casino. The helmet did not come off. And so it occurred to me, I was like, oh, hey, Jalen, you want to take a picture with Drew Brees? And he turned around thinking like, oh, Drew Brees is in here. I mean, he was convinced. And he turns
look
around.
of disappointment on his face.
He turns around and sees Nick like, hey, and he was so mad.
Well, let me ask you this:
we got the pick.
When you met Jalen, did you introduce yourself properly?
I don't recall if I gave my name to Jalen.
You didn't go.
Well, what would you be referencing? Who did I do that with?
Drew Brees.
Yeah, so these guys, these heathens, apparently, when they introduce themselves to people, don't introduce themselves with their name.
Well,
and,
we don't pause after the first name, and then
I was caught off guard because I was just going about my business, like hadn't ever met Drew Brees before, trying to be polite and respectful to the goat, our city's goat, and just say, hey, Drew, Corey, and before I could even get my last name out, I hear y'all chuckling, and I'm like, what Maul?
It was pretty funny.
And then they laughed even louder because it was the pause. And there was definitely a pause.
It was a dramatic pause.
I've met Drew. I don't often get starstruck. I've met, so many celebrities in my life. Not so many, but I was legit.
By so many, you mean Drew.
Anytime I've met someone famous, the only other person I was legit starstruck for was when I randomly. Well, Dave Matthews ran into me on the Napoleon Neutral Ground before Bacchus one year, and I was legit starstruck at that because big Dave fan. But Drew is kind of like inside my head. I was like, speak real words. He's just a dude. He's not really just a dude though. But it was fucking awesome meeting him. I mean,
no, it was an incredible experience.
I'll say, look, for all the people,
we got to give Nina and Larry their flowers. That was
Nina and Larry, and Larry, for those of y'all who don't know, the man behind the scenes, Larry Miller. He's the one that makes things go over there. Nina's husband, and he's a diehard, steadfast Georgia Tech fan. So I'm not going to hate on him for that, but I do send him some friendly texts. Yeah, I asked him. Just said, hey, I'm coming to dinner tonight. Excited to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Just can't decide what national championship shirt I'm going to wear. And he promptly responded with, there's a dress code, motherfucker. And so Larry's a great guy. And so he was there, so kudos to them. But just Drew being there, going to sound like a fanboy, but I don't care because that's what I am when it comes to Drew Brees. I mean, how can you not be? But there was like this whole
loyalty in this city.
Yeah, there was this whole mystique of like, is he here yet? Is he not here yet? And, you're sitting down first, and he hadn't entered the dining room yet. I remember being over by they had an oyster bar set up, and remember he walked in from like that back entrance where the restroom is, and it was like I could see his silhouette at the corner of my eye just approaching. I was like, oh my god, there he is.
Man, now I'm thinking about those oysters. Those were awesome.
They were great. They had them all cleaned up nice, so you could just throw them back. But to all the people who think they know whether Drew's like a short quarterback, they know he's not a tall quarterback, or they go with the reports of, it's listed at 6 feet, but he's not. No, he's a tall guy. I thought he was.
No, he's not a tall guy. He is.
He's every bit of 6 feet.
3/4,
I
6
think.
feet. He's right at 6
I
feet.
think he's 6
he's
feet
all
for
of 6
sure.
feet
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, now look, we saw all the work he does on his hairline. We know that he's very particular about his appearance. Could he have been wearing shoes that give him a little bit of extra? Because they make those now, sure.
I think there was a little extra work at playing the shoes.
They could have been. They were thick-soled,
Yeah.
I noticed. I thought they were the same Jordans I was wearing at first, but because they were black with the
Do
white
you have
soles.
lifts in your shoes?
No, man, I own it. I own my 5'9"-ness.
5'9".
yeah, I'm 5'9".
You clearly haven't owned your 5'8"-ness.
Well, you know what else he hasn't owned, and I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't make it out to the experience, was the 40-yard dash. We could have had the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I learned the trick.
could've
We
recorded
could have done
that.
field goals and 40-yard
So
dash. huh?
we I will say as a collective kind of screwed this part up because
We did.
we wouldn't have actually been able, even if we had all gone when I went with the kids on Saturday. So we haven't touched fully on the Super Bowl experience, which is another awesome part of the weekend. So on Saturday, the crowds were insane. Well, I mean,
I'm sure.
Oh,
you could,
yeah, it's the day before. It's
right.
the
You
worst day to
you
go.
could walk, you could navigate around the place freely and fine, and see the little. They had the big helmets there. I took a picture of the twins, both with their thumbs down at the Falcons helmet, because there was actually a line to take a picture with the Saints helmet. It was one of those things where there were the most idiotic things that you had to wait in line for. Like there was a line, like a 30-minute line at the Toyota sponsored exhibit to go up a ladder and jump off the truck bed of a pickup truck into a foam pit with a football. Do it once, that's it, you're gone.
Hey.
There was a line to wait to get into a car and pick out what keychain you want made. And all you get to do is pick the color of the strap and the color of the car and the key. The twins wanted to do it, so we did it. But it was one of those dad moments where I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And but so there were lines for that. So when you looked at the 40-yard dash setup was awesome. They had 3 lanes, all field turf. They had an LED screen along the length of the 40 yards, and superimposed on the LED screen were Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley running the 40s in real time. And then they showed the times after. So Derrick Henry ran a 4.54, and then they had Saquon who ran a 4.42.
Oh, 4.42.
And when you see those dudes on the screen running it like from afar, I was like, wow, that can't be 40 yards.
He's so much faster than that, though.
Yeah, he is. It's
Well,
kinda
maybe
crazy.
it was his combine number. Whatever number showed
So
up.
is Henry, though.
Showed 4.42. And
Must have got out slow.
but the line, if I got in line for that, I don't even know if I would have waited in line if I did not have my kids with me. I mean,
Okay, no, here's the deal. So if the NFL makes it happen in 2029, we're going to go
Yeah.
ahead and make a pact right now
yeah.
that we're going to go on like a Friday. We're just going to take off of work.
Yeah, you
We're
have to go
gonna
on a weekday.
We're going to go 30
It'll-
minutes before they open. We're going to wait
yeah.
outside, and we're going to film this.
They open at 3 p.m. on the weekdays, and they go till 10. So you'd probably either be like the first or the last,
Yeah, I guess I take it for granted because last time it was here, I was living 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
I went like every day.
To the experience.
Oh, yeah. I walked in every day, went check it out. But it was, I could just pop in, walk around for a minute, for
Yeah.
like 30 minutes or so, and then walk over to work. So.
Now, I did do one event with the kids because they wanted to do something. It was called the QB 2-minute Scramble. Mm-hmm. And Casey was there with his son, with Colby, and he did it. And it was pretty cool. Kind of like took me back. And at first, a lot of the parents were just kind of like filming alongside with their kids. And Lizzie
Now you're hands on.
Lizzie filmed alongside with Winnie. And so I was with Trotter. And
Corey leveled Winnie. I sack and saved the game.
So I told Trotter, though, I was like, do you want me, I can run alongside with you, or do you want me to run it and show you how to do it? You'll go behind me. And she goes, I want you to show me. And I was like, all right, I'm doing this.
There you
And
go.
so they had the little foam pads you jump over, and then there's a sign there that said go left or right, and you went between 2 tackling dummies, and then there was a ladder. So I did the ladder, and then there was another sign left or right, and you had to throw the ball at the end. And so when I got to the second part, like first one, got there, did a jump cut to the right, kept going, did the ladder quick,
Tell me you fell down.
did another jump cut,
Well, he's got cuts on his hand if you look.
and then I ate it.
Please tell me there was a video.
That's amazing.
Tell me there was a video
I
out there.
completely ate shit.
That's amazing.
So is
fell-
that what this is from?
Yeah, because I was holding.
Did you get the so dad? That's how you do it.
I was holding the ball, and I fell like so. This was like from.
And you
holding
weren't
the ball.
fumbling, were you?
I didn't fumble. I did not fumble.
He's a fullback. He's never
I
going
mean,
to fumble.
come
He's
on.
gonna
2 hands on the ball at all
held
times.
on to
Corey.
the ball, got right back up, NFL, you know, there's the touch rule, so no one touched me. I got back up and ran. But I was like, how the fuck did that happen? And thankfully, so Casey had already gone through with his son. Lizzie had already gone through it. And I'm thinking,
So Casey didn't fall.
He didn't run it. He didn't have the cojones to actually run it.
Damn it, man. We could have had a race between you two.
I know, but I'm like, God, Casey saw that. I'm never going to hear the end of it.
I'm going to text him right now and ask him about it.
Lizzie
He's got to
saw
have
it.
a video of this.
I don't believe. Well, he definitely doesn't have video. I don't think either Casey or Lizzie actually saw it because
You lucked it.
I
But
told-
hopefully a whole bunch of people did, and you entertained all of them.
I saw the face on this one guy, and he was just like,
I'm not doing that.
he looked at. He was like laughing and gaping mouth, like I think that guy just died. I want to say maybe I heard an audible gasp because there's that many people in line, because anytime somebody did something good.
Did he sign
they
the
were like,
liability
"Whoa."
waiver or what?
Oh, there was a waiver. They made sure he did the waiver.
They took one look at him. They're like, this guy
Jesus.
definitely got to sign a waiver.
Yeah, and I was hurting the rest of that. I mean, I landed pretty damn hard,
I mean, I see that. Your arm is pretty bruised up.
but just the wrist because I had to secure the ball.
Yeah.
Well, at least you held onto the ball.
Saved
And
the
it was an AstroTurf thing. It wasn't the field turf
oh,
like it was.
man.
That
it
hurt.
was-
I know that hurt.
Yeah, I mean, football camp freshman year at LSU's indoor facility, AstroTurf got it really scraped. It took me back. You know, just yeah, I ate shit and
Damn it. Why don't we have this on video?
y'all. Man,
He was smart
You're
enough.
lucky. You're
He-
lucky.
no,
it
It
would,
would, it would be pinned to our profile if it was on video.
He was smart enough
You're
to
damn
not
right it would.
I was
tell
actually,
anyone to record.
and I was actually looking for.
I would submit that shit to Fox 8
when I
they get
when
down
I
there.
got back because the line went along the length of the little drill through netting and stuff. So I actually kind of scanned when I got back up to see if anyone had their phones out. Thankfully, I didn't see any because
Damn.
yeah. But look, it was the Super Bowl experience. You know, I got tackled, felt it. Maybe it was by the turf monster, but that's fine. It was a great experience overall. You know,
Well, there you go.
didn't tear anything. Didn't pop an Achilles. Didn't nothing significant. Just a brush burn.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it was.
I'm upset that nobody filmed this.
It was quite embarrassing at the moment, to be honest. But but I'm okay. I'm good.
So we definitely have to go next time.
Yeah.
We will.
Well,
We should have this time. We just
guaranteed
didn't
not
put
to
it
fall,
together.
but-
We didn't put it together.
I couldn't figure out why. I think I was trying to, I'd just done the jump cut successfully, but I think I tried to turn around and look for Trotter and
But it was more of a flat-footed cut.
not jump, bro.
I'll be honest with you. I would have pushed
quick.
for us to go on Friday, but I was brutally hungover, so that wasn't.
There's no way I was going Friday.
Yeah, I-
0% chance.
This
Yeah,
one,
that-
this one was puking at 6 a.m.
Honestly,
There's no way he
the
was
best
gonna go.
night to do it probably would have been. I definitely couldn't have done it Wednesday because I was at the office till almost midnight, and Thursday we had the Drew dinner. So I'd much prefer Drew Brees over eating shit, getting tackled by the turf monster.
I would imagine.
But
Can you imagine trying to run the 40 after going to that dinner?
I can imagine it, and it's not good.
That could have been.
I don't know. It might have been the fastest we ever were. We didn't know what was happening.
Yeah. I guess we could have. What time did dinner let out? It
It was probably about.
We probably could have.
We probably could have gone.
Probably could have. No.
No, it was after 10.
was after 10?
It was
Yeah,
right
'cause,
around it. Right around
The
it.
restaurant was shutting
Was
down
shutting
when we
down.
went in. So.
But no, the experience was great. Parked in Canal Place, so I got a nice bird's eye view of the Kismet, the Jacksonville owner's yacht.
Oh,
That
Shaq
boat
Khan.
is huge in person.
$350
And it's,
million
I
yacht.
didn't realize how long the bow of the boat is, because you see the cabin, the multi-story cabin, but the bow of that boat just goes on forever.
Yeah.
And
I mean, 350 mil. It's going to be
yeah,
big.
yeah. I mean, the last time I spent that much on a yacht, it was about that, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, and that but it was a cool view because you had the yacht, and then on the left you could when it got dark, you could actually see the cathedral lit up in the distance, and you could actually see the lights changing from even as far over as Waldenburg Park. So that was cool. Took a little let the twins look at that before we left. But on the way over to the experience, we were walking past Caesars, not Harris. Saw Chris Olave. I was wearing my podcast T-shirt. So what's up, Chris Olave?
There you go.
I didn't pause actually. It was like, Chris Olave, what's up? Big fan, man. And he's like, hey, what's up? Appreciate it, man. And that was the extent. I thought
So
about.
no Corey.
I thought
Mall?
about. Yeah, I didn't. He was walking. We were walking. And I had the girl, so I didn't stop to give him my first and last name.
You got to do it to where you say it, and you kind of look at him uncomfortably and let it sink in, and see if they have a reaction, and then you say the last name.
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting for Drew to see if he knew me from
like
a
a
friend,
jogged
like a friend of
memory?
a friend.
Yeah.
Norton's a small town. You never know who knows who, right?
Wait, I mean, the funniest thing is when we were out there Saturday night walking through the quarter, Alex goes, I'm surprised we haven't run into anybody yet. Not 30 seconds later, Jono comes running around the corner, and he doesn't really drink, but he looked like he was feeling no pain.
It was either that or maybe being high on life, dude.
I think he was high on life.
I mean, which I don't blame him for. But him and other media personalities, it was cool to see our local media. I'm sure they, of course, like a lot of people on Twitter give our local media shit. Like, they should be harder on the team. They should, whatever. But it was cool seeing them mix it up with the whole national scene, too. Like having even the WWL guys on Radio Row, Nick Underhill on Radio Row, Ross Jackson was out there. Even guys like Trizzy Trace, who, you think is just on Twitter and his own kind of social media content creator. Like, guys like him had spots on Media Row, and seeing them get to interview people from up and down the football world was just really cool. But so Jono being in the mix too. I'm glad y'all got to meet up. Didn't quite work out with my schedule, but
yeah, it was fun, man. We started running into people left and right. I think Sam and Mimi were out there at the exact same time too.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, but no, it was a good time. Like, I'm not a fan normally of going to the quarter. It's one of those. I mean, he and I worked in the quarter back in 01, 02, 03, and looking for parking at that point was the bane of our existence. So the quarter's fun like once a year, but I will say this was the perfect time to go and check it out. And just kind of walk around, and we popped into different bars and restaurants, because obviously every restaurant establishment was either having a buyout or was pretty full. So we kind of just had to keep bouncing around, poking our head in before we could find a place that would let us in and go sit at the bar. But it was fun. It was fun. It was a good time. Everybody was having a good time. No bullshit that I guess you can see in the quarter. Like, didn't get accosted by one gutter punk, which is a first.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, those guys are always fun when you're walking through the quarter.
Yeah, no one asked you where you got your shoes at?
No one did that shit.
That's good.
No, what is it? I bet I can tell you.
I bet you $20 I can tell you exactly where you got your shoes at.
Yeah.
The city, the street, and then I actually fell for that once. Well,
did you really?
Way back when. I mean, I was like really.
Man, there was
I was in high
31.
school. I think I was legitimately like the first time I went out into the quarter when I was in high school.
Well, what was the answer?
I was like, I don't see, like, no, you, what? How? What?
No. When you fell for it, what did he say? Like, did he give you the...
Yeah. He was like, nope. And he goes, they're on your feet.
Yep, they're on your feet.
And I was like, God damn it. and then another time, like later, I was like, they have a follow-up for that too, because
I know.
When I said, nah, they're on my feet,
I've actually never been asked that by any of them.
Really?
Millions of times I had to park in the quarter.
Yeah, I swear to God, I get it. I must be one of the lucky ones. I get it all the time. But like one of the last times,
you project a nicer face than I do. Right?
More approachable, I guess.
More approachable. That's probably the best way to put it.
But I don't paint my face like Saints color Darth Maul.
Yeah, but I also don't like. I give off a look like fuck
you don't
off. I don't
walk around in the paint in the corner.
I don't give a look.
I don't want to talk to the gutter punks ever.
I try to put on a mean face, but I just don't think it's believable. That
didn't work at all.
But yeah, this one of the last times I'm like, yeah, they're on my feet. I'm good. I'm from here. And and he goes, no, okay, so they're on your feet, but if you take a nickel and you do the thing, and he had some spatted off something.
Just look at him and say, fuck off.
Like,
and
I gave him $50.
I'm sure that's just as clever as the shoes thing, but I'm not doing it, dude. Yeah.
We should at least mention the game
place.
in the context. What did you think of, like, watching that? I kind of felt like you see the new NFL and that you can compete really quickly, because that was I just don't think the Eagles are a great team, and they just beat the hell out of the Chiefs.
Hold on, let me say this though. That game, the game reaffirmed to me you fortify the defensive line
100%.
and the offensive line first
Yeah.
and foremost, and that's what Howie Roseman has done.
Yeah.
During his tenure with the Eagles.
Yep. And
you see them every year. They
yeah.
draft offensive linemen and defensive linemen.
It
What do they
includes-
do? They get these massive motherfuckers on
Yeah.
the offensive line.
Yeah.
And then you get these disruptive, explosive guys on the defensive line. You and I talked about it. The defensive line won that game.
But I mean, there's basically they were rotating about 6 guys heavily. It was more than that, but 6 guys heavily,
No blitzes.
and
which is
they
insane.
all
That's awesome.
all
I love
impacted
that stat.
the
I
game.
love that stat. And I noticed the rotation because I selfishly kept looking for my Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm like, Jalen Carter's out there most of the time, but I was happy Jordan Davis got a sack because he's just one of the coolest dudes. Never met him,
And he didn't even play that much because
Right,
Williams came
right.
in and was
Yeah.
because they knew they were passing,
Williams
so they
came,
pulled him out.
They had Graham
Nolan
back.
Smith didn't get one, though. I bet on
But
him.
Nolan
but he
Smith-
pressured.
There's a clip out there that is perfectly emblematic of the way the Eagles played. The Chiefs tried to run a counter at one point. I think they had the ball around their own 25-30. And, in a counter play, the running back's taking a fake step to the right, and then he's going left or vice versa. And then the signature of a counter run is that the backside guard steps back and pulls to the now front side of the play. So the Eagles sniffed it out. Nolan Smith has been lining up basically in a wide 9 all year. So he's way off the tackle on the front side. And so he's got this head of steam running at a full sprint at the pulling guard, and he blew him the fuck up. And basically, Nolan Smith, who only goes about like 235,
If that.
he's not a big dude, he just blows this offensive guard back into Pacheco, and it was a no gain or loss of 1.
Yeah.
And it was just so he didn't show up in the stat line for that play, but it was just emblematic of how together and cohesive that Eagles front plays. And so you just saw that, and that's why the game went exactly as I expected it to go. 40 to. I thought the Eagles would definitely put up.
Well,
40.
not exactly. I mean, we all picked the
I
Chiefs.
was like blowout Eagles for sure. I knew it was going to be a rout. Kept trying to tell you all before the game. No, but I mean,
I said they're the better team, but I
picked the Chiefs.
But I
before.
picked. We all did. But I said I thought the Eagles were a better team, but I thought it was going to be a close game, and Mahomes would beat Hurts. That's what I thought would happen.
Well,
I thought Saquon would be able to run the ball.
Me too.
If you had told me
it didn't go the way I thought,
you had-
other than I thought Pat would have trouble early in the game. But I don't understand Andy's game plan coming out all pass. Terrible game plan. Keep that game close. Put it in Mahomes' hands at the end. That's how you win that game.
If you had told me before the game that in the first half Jalen Hurts will have outrun Saquon, that Jalen Hurts would have a interception, and I forget the other part of what I was going to say there, but there's just so many indicators that would have told you that it's either going to be close or at minimum close, but the Chiefs probably going to be ahead, right? Like there's.
I thought it'd be close, and I said Pat's going to get the winning drive if you give him a chance. You better be up 10 in the last 5 minutes, or you're not winning the game.
Yeah, because everybody was looking to the Eagles' rushing attack, and they have been, and rightfully so, because you could call that offense an explosive offense because
To
of
their
the
credit,
way
they kept running it anyway.
They tried, and the Chiefs, look, the only thing I'll credit the Chiefs defense for is for having a game plan to stop Saquon, because they did. He averaged under 3.5 yards a carry, maybe 39 yards total. I mean, Jalen Hurts had 72 yards rushing.
No, Saquon got up to 54.
54.
Yeah,
okay,
but it was on 24 or 25 carries. But
it was
to be
just that-
fair, they even stopped Jalen until the fourth quarter, and he broke.
No, he
third
had a couple.
quarter.
He had a couple.
First half, he had 19 yards on 9
Jalen
carries. He
didn't-
wasn't running the ball great, and Saquon wasn't.
He
running
got
at
him in
all.
the second half.
He got him in the second half when they got tired because he had 21 minutes of possession in the first half.
And I think that's why, when you look to the star of the show, it's the Eagles' defense in this game. Or two things for the Eagles. I think the defense.
The defensive
is
line to me was
number
first and
one,
foremost.
and somewhere down the chain before. I mean, they were a far ahead as number one, a very far second. I'm going to give our future head coach credit on this one.
Don't jinx it. He hadn't signed yet.
Expected head coach. He did what we did not see Kubiak do, that we
Adjustments.
wanted Kubiak to do, and that was adjustments. So if you're you're going in and your best weapon, that your bread and butter, is getting totally shut down. When that happened to the Saints with Kubiak as an example of another OC, we were stuck. He was able to dial up take advantage
I hear you,
of what
but
they were doing.
Let's not blow that out of proportion.
I think
he's got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Bartley.
He has the
Dallas Goedert. He's got five players.
He's got the players. we didn't have the players, but
the one call I'm going to say.
But in terms of adjustments, you could see him reacting to what the Chiefs were trying to do.
I felt he played it smart. I didn't see a whole bunch of adjustments. I think they did what they do. They kept running the ball even though they weren't gaining yardage. They kept that part of the game plan. They didn't budge. The one play that I would say that I loved was
a deep shot.
putting Devontae in the slot, running him at the third corner, and going deep when they had no clue they'd be going deep. That was a great play.
That was the first play after the fourth down stop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remember back to the fourth down call on the first drive, and it was like 4th and 1.5. And we're watching it, and of course they go for it because Sirianni's going for it every time. And Saquon's wide open for like 3 yards, and then Hurts bombs it to AJ, and it was a really questionable pass interference call.
Yeah, I don't think it was, but
it wasn't.
Yeah,
but he was on his game.
He was aggressive.
And what I really liked is this thing stood out to me because I know there's been a lot of talk. He wanted to be a pass first team with the Eagles, and they said after like 2 or 3 games, he realizes, wait a minute, we got Saquon with this offensive line. Fuck that. We're going to scrap it. We're going to be a run-first team. They did that the rest of the year all the way to a Super Bowl. But I was watching, and Hurts missed A.J. Brown on I don't want to call it a routine pass, but a pretty routine pass. And you see A.J. Brown kind of...
Well, he thought he was breaking off the route, and A.J. kept going because A.J. had him beat.
Right,
A.J. was right.
No, he was open, and it wasn't a good pass. A.J. kind of looks at Sirianni, and he's mouthing off a little bit. And the next play that they were on there... Kellen Moore dials up the pass to AJ, and did he score? Or I think he scored.
No, it wasn't the next play, but it was the next series, and it was right third down, and he threw the cross and route to AJ for the touchdown.
Yeah. But I just liked that it was like okay,
he went right back to him. Yeah,
let's go right back to him.
Yeah,
let's involve him.
I didn't see anything I don't like, but I think we're giving too much credit. If we're giving the offense any credit, that was the most dominant defensive performance I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. It was 20 yards at half against Pat Mahomes and 2 turnovers that were directly 14 points. 5 punts and 2 turnovers inside the 20. One was a pick six and one was down to the 14-yard line. Well, that's
why I said the defense is one,
right?
And far behind that is 2.
You have to
give the offense some credit.
You have to be encouraged by what we saw out of Moore, because I don't care what anyone says. You have to be distracted a little bit when you're interviewing for, potentially life-changing. Like I don't know what he's making right now, probably like $1 million, something like that. This dude's going to sign for 7 or 8, 9, 10 million, whatever it ends up being,
per year.
To be a head coach, to have all the expectations in the world on your shoulders. I don't care what anyone says. He had to be a little bit distracted.
Yeah.
And then you go and you look at the Lions in their last playoff game, where they ended up losing to the Commanders. Both Ben Johnson and both Aaron Glenn, neither one of them coached the best game that game.
Right. Like, nothing's given. You still
distractions are a real thing.
Yeah. I mean.
And, like, the fact that he put it on. Spagnuolo's got how many Super Bowls at this point?
4.
So, one of the best defensive coordinators.
And the Chiefs' defense this year has been really good. I mean, their pass rush has been pretty damn dominant. So, it's not.
Hold on. There was one defensive touchdown?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so let's say Hurts doesn't throw that interception.
Bond's interception came at like the 20.
Let's say there's
14, I think they got it at the 14.
The Bond one. Let's say that Hurts doesn't throw that interception that he threw in the first half. The offense probably puts up 40 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think the offense could have put up that number anyway. They just had the Chiefs' number, so that's why. Look, the defense is the star of the show. That's one up here, and then number 2 is way far behind, but it's still a number 2. I still think that. And I'm not saying this is not me saying give Kellen Moore credit for winning the Super Bowl, he's the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl. That's not it. I'm saying I liked what I saw out of him because, like Max said, I mean, it's not automatic. You saw other guys who were anointed as like the best in their field, with Ben Johnson, or if you go to not that Joe Brady was considered the best, but he was considered one of the best, and they ultimately didn't get it done. And yes, Kellen Moore, that's the biggest difference, the biggest question mark of him transitioning to being head coach of the Saints, even if he's the offensive play caller, which I'm sure he will be, but if he's hired.
He already said he will be.
Yeah, so the biggest difference, glaring difference, is the personnel and the key personnel. Our defensive line is like a college defensive line compared to what the Eagles have. Our offensive line, while it has some a couple of good parts, is a huge question mark, especially compared to the Eagles' offensive line. And then the skill positions obviously are way down compared to the Eagles. So
but I'm going to push
he's
back
gonna
with
have
this. No one's expecting him to come in and win the Super Bowl next year.
the rational people are not correct.
I mean, I would hope you're not.
That's not the expectation.
After what we
No.
saw this season, like you can't expect any new coach, no matter who it is. I don't care if it's Ben Johnson. You can't expect them to come in and compete for a Super Bowl.
And those are the
year
reasons
one with this roster.
I'm gonna have a pretty long leash for whatever Kellen Moore does on offense. You know, even before you get into the stuff that I had trepidation about when he wasn't considered to be like a sure bet as our guy, like the whole, you know, is he going to be a leader of men? Does he have the right personality? All that stuff. Like even before I get into any of that, or even consider any of that, I'm going to have a long leash for him in terms of the offensive output. You know, because it's just it could very well take a while for all of that to come together to have the right guys in place to do what he wants to do. I mean, we saw a little bit of it with Kubiak. I mean, yeah, the first 2 weeks were what they were, but Kubiak comes in and people think, oh, we're going to have the 49ers offense now. You know, it's and it wasn't that because he didn't have the same players. I
pushed back on the last, I think it was the second to last episode, where you were really harping on, you know, the Kellen Moore presence, the leader of men thing, all of that stuff, you know. I'm going to push back with, that guy's the winningest quarterback in college football history. He went 50-3.
Yeah.
That Boise State team was fucking good.
Yeah.
All 4 years he played. He finished top 10 in the Heisman 3 years. Like, that dude was legit, and there's no way. In any article you read about, you know, scouting reports and his attributes, his positive, negatives, and all that, everything pointed to total command of the locker room, total respect of the entire team. And you hear people talking about him, you know, on the Eagles. Every Eagles player that was interviewed this week on offense, and even one, I think the one that stood out to me was Jahan Dotson. You know, he really did nothing in the regular season. He's like the fourth guy on the rotation. He's talking about, he goes, this guy's a genius.
Yeah.
He's like, everything he draws up, he's like, I love playing for him. And this is someone not putting up stats. Obviously, if Saquon's going to say he loves him because he had a 2,000-yard season. But that doesn't scare me. I know I think we're harping too much on this whole leader of men thing, like the Dan Campbell, Mike Ditka, macho type. You know, look at Clint Kubiak, and you would have been fine like giving Kubiak a shot if we had to for a season as a head coach. He is not at all the quote unquote leader of men either. That dude's as bookish as they come.
And my point in that, you know, I'm not like walking it back to, so to speak.
Moore is goofy looking. Moore looks kind of goofy.
It's the look, it's the aura or lack thereof. You know, and so when you
none of that means anything.
When you're looking at it in the context,
none of it means anything.
Yeah. Exactly. So when I was looking at it in the context of him versus who was available, and I think you know, even when Aaron Glenn was available, comparing him to Aaron Glenn, if you're talking about who has a better, who appears to be the better like outward leader, more outward leadership traits, like off the cuff, sure, Aaron Glenn. Now that we've shifted over the past, I don't even know how many weeks it's been now, a lot of them.
Too many.
When it's been expected that the Saints are going more towards Kellen Moore's direction. You read more about him, more things like what you just said come out. And so
it's going to be funny when he doesn't take the job. Huh?
Yeah, he still could.
There's no reason he didn't take the job today. Announce it.
Well, I mean, he hasn't met with the team yet. Like, he's
not. No, Underhill was saying there's not going to be another meeting.
Oh, okay.
It's just going to be one of these. It'll happen at some point.
I mean, I think the guy's allowed to enjoy the first 24 hours after the Super Bowl.
I think they're still in the city.
There was video of Jalen Hurts on a roller coaster today at Disneyland or Disney World. So,
well, he went because he's the MVP.
So maybe some of them are still in the city.
We're not releasing this today, but supposedly Saquon Barkley was having a birthday party at a prominent establishment tonight here in the city.
Interesting.
So
that makes sense.
I just found that kind of odd that, you know, they wouldn't all fly back at the same time. And then he goes, because Disney World is usually like the following weekend when they used to shoot the commercials.
And it might just be like they schlepped the quarterback out there real quick, or the Super Bowl MVP.
Well, maybe it was pre-recorded. Maybe they recorded both. No, like they record both of them.
It's not always the next weekend. When the Patriots won, I was there, and James White was there that next day.
I mean,
the day after.
But I
just find it surprising the team wouldn't all. I mean, you would want to be with those guys if you won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
You would think.
I think back to the Saints playing where, you know,
unless it's like
sleeping with the Lombardi.
Yeah.
And everybody's taking turns holding it and stuff.
Maybe it's the final game of the year type of thing where, you know, there's no next game, so they don't all have to be at the same place at the same time. But anyway, back to the thing with Moore. The more I read about him, I have read stuff like that. So I've shifted into, like, while I'm not convinced on how, I mean, you can't be if you're not a player, and I don't expect to ever be convinced that he's this rah-rah guy. He's not. So then I look to like, so what are the successful guys like who aren't the Dan Campbell types or aren't like the Sean Payton personality?
Hold on.
But
we talked about this last time.
He was nerdy.
Peyton wasn't that guy when he got here.
But the more soft-spoken dudes, it's okay. I'm fine if that's who you are and that's who we have. So I'm good with that, you being that, as long as like you're a genuine dude. And one of the things I've been that I've liked about what he said is more just like, just leadership style. Just you got to be yourself. Like, guys need to trust you, believe in you, and they're not going to believe you if you're not like if you don't give all of yourself, and if you're not your true self, then people don't get behind it. So if he's up there like, just being himself and not trying to be something he's not, then I'm good with it. And then outside of that, all the reports are that this dude's a football nerd, like in a good way. He's been at the facility till 3 a.m. just tinkering and working on stuff. Like, I really love that out of a guy who's going to run our offense. He said he's even good as open-minded enough to say, I forget who he said this to, but there was a quote where he's like, like if there's some local high school running some kind of crazy play we think would be good, take a crack at it, see if it works. Like, so,
look,
he's thinking
the other positives, like, I don't know, I'm sure you saw Alante Taylor's Instagram post.
Yeah.
Where he said, he was like, hey, Kellen Moore, when you come down here, make sure you bring a defensive coordinator that, I don't know what his exact words were, like aggressive or something like that. Yeah. But that shows you, these guys are excited.
Because Alante was saying in the same video, he was like, he led with 40 points in the Super Bowl. That's crazy, man.
Against that defense?
Yeah.
That defense is fucking nasty.
That defense wasn't the same as it was. It was, 8th in the league this year?
Look, again, any way you slice it, incredibly impressive performance.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to. It was
defense first.
Was it more the Chiefs were a fraud most of the season because they were not a great team? They just kept pulling out games, right? Like,
they were a good defense, though.
They were. I think I looked at
their offense was average.
The offense was 17th. The defense was 8th. It's for that to be a Super Bowl team is kind of rare.
Let me say this though. But I fully expected, since Kellen Moore is assumed to be our head coach, I fully expected him like, oh, he's coming to the Saints, he's going to lay an egg. He's going to go out here and put up 3 points, and the Chiefs are going to blast him only because the Saints are signing him. And it's going to make everybody look, you know what I mean?
Well, that's more about the Saints jinx, I think.
Exactly. And I say that jokingly, but
I think, as far as that, I think it was a good offensive performance. But again, I'm not going to read too much into 40 points or anything. 14 came straight from the defense. It's about as bad as Pat Mahomes has probably ever put. Could be one of the worst few games of his career if you take away the 3 garbage touchdowns literally in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The dude was terrible, and you never see that except weirdly in the Super Bowl. He plays his worst version of himself in the Super Bowl, which makes no sense because he still won 3 of them. But I think there was a graphic that came up when he threw that second pick that his Super Bowl career, he had 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think about for a 3-time Super Bowl winner
to
kind of play mid-level, especially by his standards, well below his normal standard, and still have won 3. I think it was a perfect situation for an offense to do well. So I don't want to read too much into that.
No, I'm not saying give him all. It's just it was encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't take a lot of chances except when he knew he could shock them. I loved that.
Look at Shanahan in the 28-3 game.
That's a choke job.
Exactly, and that could have happened.
But he kept throwing the ball when he should have been running the ball, and they kept running the ball like they should. They kept mixed in the pass.
He had to land a plane. That's all he had to do. Which is
he didn't screw it up.
That's
what we're going to say. He didn't screw it up, and it was a nice offensive game. A couple really good explosive pass plays.
Yeah.
Otherwise, kind of just a methodical.
Well timed.
Use up the time, use up the clock. But either way, I think the Chiefs were an average team with a Hall of Fame quarterback this year. Mm-hmm. Not a great team.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how the Bills didn't pull it off this year against them because they were right for the taking to me. Getting Houston, I thought they got lucky. I think Houston's still a flawed team. They still have to build more pieces to get.
The Bills or the Ravens should have been there.
Should have been. And, I'd like to think the Ravens would have beat them, but I don't know. It's just like getting over the mental hurdle of that guy seems to be a problem for those two quarterbacks when it counts, when they're both playing at a higher level than Pat right now in their careers. And so what does that mean next year? I don't know. The Eagles, I don't know what their situation is with free. I know Bond's a free agent, so he's about to get paid a boatload of money.
There's a decent amount.
There's a lot. So can they? To me, it gives you hope. This parity thing. I don't see an elite team in the Eagles. I saw an elite defense for sure.
There's an elite defense.
But if they lose a few guys, are they? What's CJ on over there? Is he on a multi-year?
I think he's only on a 1 year deal.
1 year for him. What about? They got the two corners that are young, so I don't know what that means for Slay next year. Because there's nothing to say Cooper can't, DeJean can't slide in.
Quinyon Mitchell,
and they invested those first two picks in those guys. So they've got a ton of talent.
Well, the way they're drafting, they're going to be fine.
But they're also going to have to pay some people here pretty soon.
Well, I was going to say, like, that's when you look to the difference between a team like that and looking to us as an example, they've been drafting so damn well that the
cupboard is never bare.
They're reloading.
Defensive drafting for them has been out of this world. Yeah. Offensively, you can have your knocks, but they've done that in free agency and nailed it. Barkley,
but even defensively, like N'Kobe Dean,
right?
Who was an animal. He wasn't even drafted. Like, he was undrafted free agent, I'm pretty sure.
No, he was drafted.
Or he was like a fourth or fifth rounder?
I thought he was third or fourth.
He
was a fourth or a fifth rounder then.
He wasn't a first rounder.
Yeah.
No, he was like a fourth or a fifth. I'm going to look it up.
Maybe so.
Okay, I mean...
He's mid-round pick, I think. I thought third or fourth.
Yeah,
maybe he was fifth.
He was drafted, but no.
He didn't even play, right?
The first year, N'Kobe didn't play because they had...
He was like a torn pec or something.
No, I'm sorry. He was third round.
Not Kendricks, but there was someone I can't think of who was playing ahead of him in his rookie season, but N'Kobe beat him out. Mm-hmm. And the guy ended up being a free agent. I cannot think of the guy's name.
But that was his third year, right?
This was his second.
They have to sign. Oh, it was his second? I thought it was his third.
This past year was his second year.
Okay, so they got another year of him without having to sign him.
People need to slow their roll on Pat Mahomes, the GOAT. This talk needs to stop.
Yeah, well, someone had a...
No, I'm sorry. Like, look at his stats this year and last year. And I forgot who posted it. It was one of the writers. They were saying on... he had like the worst rating on like air yard completions over like 20 yards or something like. Or
the last 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, the last 2 years.
I think that the Chiefs are in a different kind of way, but it's similar.
He's on a Hall of Fame trajectory.
They were talking about like NFL Network.
He is not the best quarterback in NFL history.
One of the commentators was saying that I think what you saw out of the performance from the Chiefs or Pat Mahomes just not being able, like him getting rattled, him having a poor game on this stage against that quality of an opponent was. It's clear that Patrick Mahomes has been covering up an otherwise pretty mediocre
football
team.
I hate that narrative. It's already happened to him. The Bucs did it to him too.
He has not been great in the Super Bowl.
But especially this year, like the Chiefs were not what they were in their initial Super Bowl runs, his initial Super Bowl runs, and it just showed like I do think that he throughout the course of the...
What is it? 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 5 games in the Super Bowl?
It's 10-7 now. It was 7-7 before the garbage.
It showed
throughout 9-7.
They get to 15, but I think people see them...
He threw one right at the end.
People see them getting 15 wins, and they're like, this is a 15-win team. And you're like, they won 15 games, but it was because, but if they don't have Pat Mahomes... he's making up for a lot.
But how many games were just... And I'm not getting into the refs thing at all. I'm just saying fortunate to win. Where it wasn't Pat Mahomes making a drive. It was
close games.
The Raiders dropping the ball on in field goal range for a winning field goal. It was the pass interference on Kyle Pitts that wasn't called. It was the pass interference called on the Bengals. Not Mahomes driving them for scores. This is like... I feel they had a lucky season record-wise, is what I'm saying. And I'm not knocking. Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback since he's come in the league. There's no debating that whatsoever.
In that time span.
The part I have a problem with is when there was so much talk leading up to this. Oh, if he three-peats, he's on that GOAT. He's in Brady's class. Brady never did. You got to stop that.
He's not there yet.
The dude.
He might get there. He probably gets there. He's not.
I don't think
you feel like you're trying to say he's there already.
No. I don't think he's there. I think they haven't put guys around him, he had
Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce.
Hill
two of those Super Bowls, they certainly had everyone around them.
Yeah. But it's talking more recent. Like
the last one, I'll give him some credit.
Travis has been, I guess I'm thinking about this in the past, this year and last year, because Tyreek leaves, they don't really replace him. I mean, Kelce, the past 2 seasons has not been the same Travis Kelce that he was before that. he's fallen off. I mean, he looked awful.
Last year was pretty awesome. This year, I
he
agree
looked
with
awful
you 100%.
last night.
Yeah.
And that offensive line for the Chiefs was like, they looked like the Saints offensive line the way they were letting the Eagles
again,
come through.
these are the things that happen when you
you
pay
pay
the
a
big money.
quarterback,
The roster just gets a little worse, and you can mask that. You draft real well, you can do it. But if you're the GOAT, you're playing better than that. Who has more interceptions in the Super Bowl than Pat Mahomes ever? Anybody? I bet you he's the leader. He has more than Brady. Brady had 6 in 10 games.
Brady
He's got
had
7.
21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
No, that's the thing. Getting to the Super Bowl as many times as he has is one thing.
It is impressive.
That's impressive.
And he is a future Hall of Famer.
And I'm finishing the thought there. It's like, but that's not everything. In this game, it can also be a double-edged sword.
My point, and we kind of veered off the track, is that people need to stop with, is he the best ever? He's not the best ever.
Right.
He's simply not.
And I think it goes to that argument. When you get there, that's fine. But if you get there and you have a performance like you did last night, then that definitely takes away a lot.
And I want to bring that up
idea.
again. He's now been blown out twice.
Yeah.
Blown out the building twice.
Yeah.
Brady's 3 losses were 1-possession games. If you remember, it was the Eli drives in both those games to go up on in less than a minute left.
Right.
And then the last one was what was the other one? The Eagles, where he threw a Super Bowl record for yardage in that game and dominated the Eagles, and their defense couldn't stop anybody because they decided to bench Malcolm Butler for no conceivable reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that's my only problem. We're too quick to say go. He isn't even. If those careers ended now, he has to get in an argument over Montana and other people still.
Yeah.
He's not in that crazy world or even close yet.
Yeah.
Going to 10 Super Bowls, winning 7, 2 different teams, being dominant in every game but his first one in the Super Bowl, like being beyond excellent in 9 of the 10.
Yeah.
His first year starting, he was not great in the Super Bowl, Brady, but he didn't turn it over and he still won the game. But I think he loses last year if Greenlaw doesn't get hurt. I honestly believe that because the tight ends had 1 catch in the first half and like 10 as soon as Greenlaw went out.
Huge. Yeah.
There were like fortunate things that happened for him, and I'm not trying to disparage him at all. He's the best quarterback in the league in the last 8 years. There's no second place in my opinion.
And he's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame now. You said he's not yet. I think he is already.
No, he is. He is.
And he's an amazing player. It is strange to me. His worst version of himself is in the Super Bowl because if you look at, he's got like an 85 quarterback rating somewhere around there in his career.
I've got it right here.
That's not great play in the biggest moment. So you can't put him. What is it? What's his QB rating?
86.
86.
Yeah.
So that's far below his career.
And I think he's benefited from a period of time, especially like pretty recent, where his division has been pretty down.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Well, there's also the rules that have really been skewed. The rule changes over the past 10, 15 years have changed the game.
Yeah.
So someone like Montana, if
roughing
he's
the
dropped
passers,
into this era.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, as far as the reason he keeps coming up. I again, like I don't agree with him.
I didn't want to get into a 20-minute discussion on this.
No,
I
but
was just literally
it's
saying
interesting, though.
He is not the greatest of all time.
It is
and
interesting.
People need to stop.
And but one of the reasons that I think it keeps coming up with him, obviously there's recency bias, but it's the value that people put on winning championships, which obviously you win Super Bowls, you're an NBA champion with Michael Jordan, but like Michael Jordan had both. He won a bunch of NBA championships, but he was also the best player. And one guy who had an interesting take on that I wasn't expecting him to form a rational thought on this was when I saw the headline, Cam Newton on First Take said that he would not trade a Super Bowl for his MVP.
He's nuts.
Well, he's also the guy that wouldn't dive on a fumble.
But
that's what losers
I
say.
thought that was crazy. But he brought up I'm not saying he's right in the conclusion, but his reasoning highlights the reason people get into this GOAT discussion with a guy like Pat Mahomes. He says, look, we look to championships as the signal for whether or not you're the GOAT. And then he goes, Trent Dilfer won an NFL championship. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl.
Flacco, yeah.
He's like, if you're telling me which trophy is a better one to have, the MVP signals that in that year there was not a single person playing better than me.
That's what a selfish loser says.
And he said, now,
the point of the game is to win.
Well, he said right, but and he's like, the point of me winning, or the point of me as a quarterback for my team, is to play the best that I can possibly play to help my team. And if you're telling me for that year there wasn't a single football player better than me, then that means I did everything I could to help my team win. And we all know the
Except jump on the fumble.
pushbacks on that. But I think what I took out of that as well is that
He's stupid.
We would say, if you're comparing all time, Pat Mahomes to Dan Marino, a lot of people would just say Pat Mahomes automatically better because of the Super Bowls, without really comparing the merits of what kind of quarterback
I disagree
they were.
because I think the MVP award is completely flawed as well. Drew doesn't have one. Drew was the best player in the league at least 3 seasons.
Yeah.
It's voted on by a few people. That is a way. To me, no.
Without jumping into the MVP itself, I think the reason we jump Pat Mahomes into this GOAT conversation, or it has been, is the number of championships he's gotten.
The reason I disagree with that is it's a guy who threw for almost 50 touchdowns. It's a guy who's thrown for 5,000 yards. He's also been the most dominant player and won MVPs. He's the best player in the league right now, or over a span. He has not been the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But over that span, he has every mark you want to check. He's done. A 5,000-yard passer, I think, what was his best? 46? Was it something like that?
Yes.
Had a huge touchdown year, huge yardage year. Been the MVP 2 or 3? 2 times?
I don't know, 2 or 3.
At least
So
twice. Yeah.
I think he does have the pelts on the wall to say I'm all of those things.
You're saying you can see why the conversation's happening, but it's too quick to just
GOAT is a different.
just anoint him.
Max
No,
brought
that
it up.
conversation should not be happening.
Max brought it up. This all momentum started when they were on the big run, and Max brought it up to me, and he's like, he's on that GOAT path. I'm like, dude, we can't even talk about that yet. He's not even halfway.
Yeah.
Okay, on the Super Bowls.
Yeah.
He's not even close to halfway statistically. He's not halfway on division titles. He's not halfway on championship game appearances. He's not halfway. He's halfway now on Super Bowl appearances. We'll give him that. But to me, catch Montana and Bradshaw first in Super Bowls. Get to 5. Then let's have those discussions. To say it at 3 is just so jumping the gun, and it's pretty disrespectful for what Brady did. Brady's career is insane, if you really want to. He performed at a level statistically with Drew, who was the statistical best quarterback of his area when he played. He was if you just take the Drew years, he was the best statistical quarterback. He played second best at that level. He was second in those statistical categories.
Had all the titles.
And he went to the Super Bowl 10 times. All at the same time. So, his career, for some reason, is, to me, a little underappreciated. Now, did he have a much better circumstance than Drew? 100%. Did he have a great defense every year? Yes, he did. Of course, he had advantages through that, but there's not a point on his resume that you can knock across the board.
Yeah.
So, I think just chill on that.
Well,
and let's see if Pat can bring one of these mediocre teams, not the Tyreek Hill, prime Travis Kelce, great offensive line, good defense. He walked on to a division-winning team when he started, okay?
Yeah, Alex Smith was taking that team to the Super Bowl the playoffs every year.
The playoffs every year. Yeah. So they won their division, double-digit win team, and he walked onto that team his first year. That's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Let's be real, though. We live in the flavor of the moment.
Yeah.
This next generation, I don't know, what is this generation called? Is it Z? What is the newest one?
There's some
people who are
I think there's something after Z now.
Yeah, we're past Z now.
I can't think of what it is. God,
whatever that generation is, it should be renamed Generation GOAT because they fucking think everything is the greatest of all time. They call everything is the GOAT.
I've said it before. There's way too many goats.
There is.
You've heard me go on rants about this on this podcast multiple times.
There's too many goats.
So do you think there's a budding dynasty with the Eagles?
No.
Me neither. Okay.
We're kind of in a
Eagles?
No, I'm sorry, Eagles. I'm sorry, I'm cheering Chiefs.
Yeah. No.
Eagles, no.
I think the Chiefs is done. I think they need some really great drafts to get back to.
They need to beef up.
They're not a top 5 team to me right now. Now they're a really great draft or a couple. Could they get there?
They're one draft away.
When you have Pat, you just need some draft picks that don't cost a lot of money. Or
they should learn.
They're kind of getting into that 2017 and beyond Saints cycle, like the end of Brees' era cycle, where it's like they're definitely good enough to make the playoffs, probably a conference championship, but
their best players are old, man.
They're
old.
Missing to say for certain this is the Super Bowl winning team. I'm
going to be very disappointed if the Bills or the Ravens don't beat them next year to go to.
There's no excuse. They have both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have better teams than Pat has right now. Yeah. So you've got to beat the boogeyman and make that step next year.
They got to beat them, dude. They have to.
Well, it goes back to with those teams, it's how how consistently are they doing it? That's why the Mahomes teams, when they had Tyreek and Kelsey in his prime, and Mahomes going off every year, they were so consistent. The best Brady teams were just consistent. They didn't have an off day, And one of the reasons the line was even so tight, even though most analysts were saying top to bottom the Eagles look like a better football team, but we can't give them the win, is because the Eagles were not consistent at all this year. Maybe towards the end of the year.
After they played us,
they were consistent.
After they played us, they lost one game. Right?
Yeah, they were consistent.
And it was the game Jalen went out of.
Yeah.
Right.
And they would have won that game if he's played the whole game.
But like some games were close, some games they blew out. But
I'm going to argue they were more consistent than the Chiefs all year. After you got past the 2-2
the Chiefs' year was, I'm not saying the Chiefs' year was
Chiefs
consistent.
won how many one-score games?
I'm not saying the Chiefs were consistent this year. I'm talking about like the Chiefs of the past were consistent, but the Eagles.
I think the Eagles ran into problem when they asked Jalen to be the lead a few times, and you saw the pass game struggle.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were breaking that down, how he was missing reads and things like that. When they just leaned on Saquon and let Jalen play off of Saquon, Jalen, I think we all lamented it. He's a second-tier quarterback, in my opinion. Nothing's changed my opinion of that.
Agree.
When you go run first and you allow him to play action and use his legs, he's a problem.
Yeah.
A big problem. When he has to be Pat Mahomes, he's not Pat Mahomes.
Right.
So, when they led with Saquon and they gave Saquon that 20-plus a game, they were pretty – I mean, games would stay close sometimes, but they were always in control, it seemed like to me, in the last half of the season especially. But I don't see an elite – necessarily. They lose a couple players on defense, and that defense, I don't know where all the contracts stand. They have a ton of talent on the defensive line, which is scary. Now they have a ton of talent, young talent in the secondary. That team, the
defense
will be in the playoffs,
is built to carry them.
Yeah.
And especially how aggressive that defensive line, defensive front is. They just get the fuck after you, and
they were incredible
violently.
And they were incredible most of the year. They weren't the first ranked defense for no reason. They played that way most of the year,
and then they got the young guys in the back end. That's the thing. Like, it's one thing if you have that kind of pass rush, but if you got guys letting receivers open on the back end, then that's too bad. But they've got guys who are the Chiefs receivers couldn't get open last night, and so it was just disaster for them.
There was not one. If you lined them up position by position, there isn't one position other than quarterback that I would have taken a Chiefs player over an Eagles player going into the
Chiefs
game.
Defense versus Eagles.
Every
offense.
position.
Chris Jones, maybe against their one.
Not
I love Chris Jones in the playoffs.
I do too, but I mean,
not over
Jalen Carter.
Maybe Chris Jones over Jordan Davis.
For sure. For sure that.
But not over Jalen. You can't.
Let's just say the starting defensive tackles, starting defensive ends, there's not one position group I'm taking.
This year he was equally as dominant as Jordan Davis, though. I mean, Jalen Carter.
For sure, but you're not taking the Chiefs defensive tackles over the
No,
Eagles.
absolutely not. Absolutely
That's my point. I'm saying defensive ends, I'm taking the Eagles. Defensive tackles, I'm taking the Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Linebackers, I'm taking the Eagles. Corners, I'm taking the Eagles. Safeties, I'm taking the Eagles. Like every position group down the line except for quarterback, I would have taken
Safety's
the Eagles.
debatable.
Yeah, because
Bolden and Reed, pretty solid.
Okay, so that one's close. And but still.
I agree. Wide receivers. Tight end's close.
Tight end's close.
Just because Goddard's a good tight end, not a great tight end.
But Kelsey is now
a good tight end, not a great tight end. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Running back, obviously. That's a joke.
Yeah. I mean,
that was the better team. I brought it up. We said it, and we said they're a better team, but we thought Pat would just pull it out because that's what they do. That's what they've been doing.
It's funny, though, because then when it came time to make bets, like any parlay I had, I took the Eagles.
So did I, but I built the points up. The only thing I put a team in, I put the Eagles in. Actually, I told you in the fourth quarter, I was losing all my props, so I bet 100 plus 26 on the Chiefs and got all my money back. Plus 26, you knew they were going to get some garbage TDs.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it was funny, though. Like, once Saturday got here and I started thinking about the game and I started thinking about bets, I'm like, the Eagles are the better team. They're going to win this shit.
Yeah,
they're going to win.
You thought about the game objectively and analytically. It's hard to say, why are we picking, and you're only picking the Chiefs based on the
Pat Mahomes. That's really
based on the
it's the only reason we were picking
the intangible.
Yeah.
So,
but to be fair, he's earned that.
Absolutely.
And
look, anyone that's listening, I've been a Pat Mahomes fan for the longest time.
Yeah, we're not knocking Pat Mahomes.
We're not knocking him. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I am just saying that these takes that are floating around a lot on social media where people are asking, is he the GOAT? No.
You can't say
It's just he's not there yet.
Yeah.
He got
But-
MVP votes this year just because of their record. He didn't play great this year. I mean, we can say that. Now, maybe it's because his skill players aren't great.
Yeah,
His
so
offensive line,
what's
we
the,
saw.
the Dan Orlovsky argument, where you quantify value, take that guy off the team. What do they look like?
The best quarterback in the league was this
and
year?
it's like-
Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Take Saquon off the Eagles,
Or, I mean,
and
Lamar
they're
had
losing
pretty
to
fucking good
Tampa
year.
in the wild card round. Okay, I mean you can say that about.
That's what I mean.
bunch
That's
of-
what I mean.
you're
That's
right.
why, like, the MVP thing, when people try to justify their, like, but if you think about what value really means, it's like, well, yeah, you can play that game, but you can play the game with a lot of people.
Right. So the Bills would still be better than the Chiefs without Josh Allen? No.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Burrow
I mean,
was superhuman this year.
Yeah. His defense couldn't stop anyone.
Yeah,
It was like watching Drew Brees in the Spagnuolo.
100%. That's what it was. It was one of those seasons. It was like a 40 touchdown season with almost 5,000 yards and very few turnovers. Like I think 8 turnovers for the whole year, something like that.
Burrow was on the ball.
He was on a different level.
So I don't know. All right. Well,
Do we have any other thoughts on the Super Bowl?
no.
I think the biggest winners of the Super Bowl were the city of New Orleans, followed or maybe exceeded by Jameis Winston, and then the game. Jameis Winston had a hell of a time this weekend. The content was amazing.
Yeah. He was great. He was
I'm
great.
going to say I'm happy that Kellen Moore finished his Eagles career. Hopefully is over, but I'm happy he finished it on a high note.
Yeah.
Won a Super Bowl. The offense showed out. I think that I was a little higher on Kellen Moore than the two of you when we discussed the.
Well, I had him second, but didn't I? Didn't I say second?
Yeah, but I was pretty. I wanted him over McCarthy. I really didn't want him.
Yeah, you had him first.
But I am gonna say this. He wasn't my first choice. I will say. I'll be honest. He was not my first choice. He wasn't anyone's first choice. Sean Payton wasn't my first choice either.
Yeah.
Like Sean Payton got hired. The only thing I could think of was that's the guy who got his play calling duties stripped away from him.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, it's an offensive coach. Fun.
Yeah, I mean,
What I told you is like, if we don't get McCarthy, but only because I'll take a borderline Hall of Fame coach over a question mark. That's just my opinion. And I understand why people don't want that, the young coaches things in. I said, if we don't do that, I'd rather just a young offensive coach.
Right.
Whoever it is. I'd rather that than Aaron Glenn, than a bunch of these people that we were talking about. Give me a young offensive coach if we're not going to have an established, proven coach.
Yeah. And I'll even admit he wasn't even my third choice, and that's excluding Ben Johnson. It was McCarthy, and before he was taken by the Jets, I wanted Glenn. So
I guess the point I was going to make with this is that I am actually more excited about Kellen Moore coming on board than I was Sean Payton.
Now that since he's been the expected guy, I've done a deep dive like anybody else, and the more I read, the more positive stuff I see. So obviously,
So you're a fan.
you come around. I'm like,
And look, we would support whoever gets
we
hired.
don't
If they
Right.
hired you, Corey, I'd be like, I don't know. He might be the next one.
we don't have a choice. Yeah,
I'd be like, hey, he's a little old. He's not young.
my PR team would be working overtime if they chose me. Not that they'd have to, because the greatness is just obvious. But
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Either way, I'm excited. Hopefully we get this over the finish line soon, and then we could start talking about coordinators and all that stuff when he assembles his team.
yeah, you got to think those names come in quick.
And the next question for the next episode, I guess, will be, what happens with Derek Carr? Because they were floating that around that the Saints are going to make a decision over the next couple weeks. So
Yeah, we'll see.
that should be fun to talk about. But until then, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening to the 28-3 podcast. Who dat?
Through that.